let's open our meeting at whatever, 5:02, please. Minutes. Anybody have any issues with March 11th minutes?
Nope.
Okay, I do. Under athletic fields inquiry, Tamika, you say here, Mike ended up meeting with Mike Noviak to discuss their interest in establishing two athletic fields that would be affiliated with the Woo Sox and the Red Sox while meeting at the site. It was the next sentence. I never met with him in person. I spoke with him on the phone and we never met at the site. So if you could just.
Oh, I misunderstood that. Absolutely.
No,
I'll fix that.
That's fine.
Sure.
So if you could just clarify that, that'd be great.
Sure will.
Okay. So was there a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion with corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Norwood,
Williams,
aye.
aye.
Van Ree, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Bonnie, aye.
Tim, did you?
Oh, yeah, I said Norwood, aye. I'm sorry.
Beg your pardon. Okay, so unanimous, Tamika. Okay, next order of business. Update on Sol Systems. Today, I received a draft termination letter from them agreeing to terminate their lease agreement with the town so that, you know, we're in good legal shape as far as working with HCH on moving into that parcel. So I have forwarded it on to our town council for her review, and I would anticipate, you know, tomorrow hearing something back from her. So I guess what I'm telling you is, you know, whatever it takes to get that done, I'll get it signed and we'll be in good shape with Sol Systems.
Thank goodness it went that way, Mike. Wouldn't have been something he says, yeah, we want to come back in with a big field.
Right. Anybody have any questions or concerns there?
All I can say, Mike, is I don't anticipate solar in Rutland for the next 5 years.
Well, I don't know about that, but we'll see.
Yeah, the grid's not going to spend the money, I can tell you that.
Okay, so Ron, I sent you a copy of that as well.
Yeah, I saw it. I looked at it really quickly, but I didn't have time to really read it that
okay.
well. And I guess Sharon's going to take a look at it as well. So.
Right. Well, that was the recommendation of Beth. So, okay. So,
Excuse me, one thing, is that going to be passed on to the solar committee?
What?
what's going to be Pat?
What solar committee?
Sorry, Mike, I had to use you for Ron because of the selectmen talking about a solar system. And it has not ever become before the solar committee.
What's
So
a
now,
solar
Ron,
committee?
So you're throwing a dig in on my. Okay, I got it. I'll get even.
Ron, there is a solar committee that all solar stuff goes through.
I never even heard of it.
Dick, don't they negotiate the pilot agreements for the town?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Okay. I thought that happened through the assessors department, so I don't know what you're talking about. Usually solar agreements pilots are done working with the town assessor, and I know Harold has developed a whole bunch of different ones that are pretty consistent. So somebody, I think you got a group of people working with Harold on that?
Do me a favor, talk to Norm Anderson. He's the chair.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on.
Okay, you owe us 3 minutes. Next order of business. HPDD site. Well, I'll tell you what, let's get these other little issues out of the way first. I'm gonna, if nobody objects, I'm gonna take them out of order. The Route 68 cell tower. I just want the group to be aware that I'm having discussions with them about our current contract. And there's all kinds of issues that we're discussing that aren't worth talking about yet because they just haven't gone far enough. But I don't want the committee to hear about it from somebody else and say, how come I didn't know about this? But Dick,
Thank you. Just a question, when you're talking, is there any way of utilizing their right of way up to the cell tower to go around it to a 15-acre piece that the town of Rutland owns and could make a beautiful ballpark? Ron?
Huh?
well,
Just making sure you heard that.
well, just Dick, I'll just make one comment. We own the land the road is on, so I see.
Well, is it part of the lease agreement that we could use part of it to get on the other side of the rail trail?
Yeah, I don't know that, but it's something I can discuss with him. So,
Thank you.
you know, there's a couple of basic issues. One, there's an additional tower, excuse me, there's an additional carrier on the tower now that they're supposed to be paying us additional money for. It's just some things I'm having very good discussions with them right now. And as it comes together, I will, you know, keep the board informed, but I just want you to be aware that that's going on.
Thank
Mike,
you.
Yes.
is that just a, basically the I want to say the contract, the lease is up and we're renegotiating our lease agreement with them?
Well, no, the lease isn't up. The lease, you know, Tim, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think
Okay.
I think it was 20 years with 2 5-year extensions.
Yep.
But in the lease, it says that, you know, Sprint was the original carrier on the tower, or the original, what do you call it?
The leasee or the,
Yeah, whatever. And I noticed one day driving by that it looked like there was additional equipment on there. So I got, you know, turned around, backing up and looked, and sure enough, there is. So I have approached them about that and some other issues we're talking about as well. So it's not
Okay.
worth getting into because I don't have enough information to share with you yet.
all right.
Just
I
want-
just was curious if we were starting over, which would give Dick's point a little bit more credence, or if it was just updates to the lease, which
Yeah, no,
sounds like
we're not-
updates.
Yes, sorry, Tim, to interrupt. We're not starting over, but it's probably a good opportunity to discuss that.
Okay, good. Thanks, Mike.
Like, just one comment. Obviously, you know, most of those leases with cell towers mean if you add another carrier to the cell tower, the town gets additional money. So I'd really like to hear about that. If there's additional equipment, additional carriers, we need to revisit that and compare it to the lease and see if they owe us money.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right now. Okay, the last item I had there, I just want to bring you up to speed. I put on the RDIC budget. I just want you to be aware that we went in front of the Finance Committee requesting an additional $1,250 for secretarial services because of the additional work that our lovely Tamika is doing for us, and they weren't inclined to give it to us. So we got to take it out of what we have left of money. So again, I'm just making you aware, so it's not a surprise to you if you hear it somewhere else. All right, anybody questions?
Bad.
Okay, last.
I have a question about that, Mike.
Yes.
Because last night Tim mentioned that putting in a good work for Tamika to get a raise. But if we put in a good word for Tamika to get a raise, that means we would need her less. We would only be able to have her for less hours.
Well, we have, I had it here somewhere, but we have, I don't have the exact number, but it's like $18,000, no, $12,000 in our account. I believe it's $12,000. Yeah, I think it's $12,000 or $13,000 we have in our account. So don't worry about Tamika. If she gets a raise, we'll pay her.
Got it. And not that I don't want Tamika to get a raise. Don't take that the wrong way. She's earned more than any amount of money we could pay her.
Yeah, I mean, Ron and I have discussed this. They didn't want to give us anything. I asked that they at least level fund us the $750 we had last year. Ron said that he was going to make sure that happened. So I don't agree with what they did, but they did it. So it is what it is.
Just to be clear, right as of this minute, all non-union employees, included Tamika, were put in for a 2% raise, a COLA. Now, it's up to the Finance Committee if they're going to support that or not. And there's a lot of very serious budget issues that we're talking about in the Finance Committee. But as of right now, Tamika and all the other employees at least from my perspective, have been put in for the same 2% raise that almost every union member is getting. So we'll see how it all plays out, but it's in the budget at this moment in time.
We have $12,577 in our account. So we certainly don't have any problem paying Tamika. And I believe we talked about at our last meeting, I believe we talked about the fact that we have established a 53G account, which basically allows us to go to, in the case of Harbor Classic Homes, much like the planning board does, for professional services, engineering, consulting, whatever, we're able to bill them for that. So that $12,000 is, well covered. Okay, anything else? Okay, moving on to probably the most important part of the evening, the HPDD site. I scheduled this meeting specifically a day after the HPDD Review Board meeting last night, so that if and I was sure there was going to be issues that were going to come up that we needed to deal with. And certainly there were. How many of you were able to watch that or did watch it? Did everyone?
I watched it.
Okay, well, all right. I don't want to have to go back and rehash what went on last night, but I've got some bullet points that we have to address. And in order to facilitate what the HPDD Review Board and Harbor Classic Homes is doing, we have to come up with answers on these things, because otherwise it's going to be, they're going to go back to the next meeting. They're not going to know what to do. This is just going to go on and on and on. So first and foremost, in my mind, is the original. Tamika, are you able to put up the plan that was submitted last night? Shame on me for asking you in the middle of a meeting. Tamika? Okay, well.
Sorry, I'm here.
You're not telling me you had children to tend to.
Oh, my Lord, she was in the dryer, but I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding either.
Computer with you, that would have been entertaining.
Oh, my goodness.
I've got the, if I can't share my screen, so maybe that's part of the problem, but I've got the PDF right now I could put up if I could share my screen.
Well,
Well,
Tamika, what I asked is, can you put up the proposal last night by Harbor Classic Homes?
I can, sure. Let me get it. Hold on one sec.
Okay.
Tamika, you're bringing me a deja vu moment. I remember I have younger twin sisters. My brother and I were the older, and then we had a middle and then younger twins. They not only went in the dryer, but someone turned it on for an instant. So they did at least a tumble. They didn't get hurt, but they did a tumble.
I would bet
caught
that
her
someone was
before
Mike
she did
Sullivan.
that. Did it work, Mike? Can you
Yes, it did.
it?
Yes, it did. If you go up just a little higher, maybe you can move the, okay, that's good right there.
Is that good? Okay.
Okay, so you folks will all recall that at our previous meeting to this, we kind of gave them marching orders saying, hey, solar's going away. You can now move into that space. We'd like you to take your, was it 22 units from parcel C, move all residential units up to parcel A. So what I anticipated was they were going to come back with 88 units shown on parcel A. What they did was they took the latitude of saying, okay, we've got this extra land, we can build more than 88 units. So what you're seeing here is, if I remember right, it's 142 units. So the first order of business, the first thing we need to do, or the most important thing we need to do, is establish for them what we are comfortable with for a maximum density. Now, we can talk about all of the reasons, all of the, the good reasons to allow them to build, as many as they want. Because it's revenue to the town, it's reoccurring revenue, blah, 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 blah. All those things we all know about. On the other side of that, we have to consider the will of the people, which, every single time we talk to anybody about a survey or anything else, it's rural character. And, I'm not minimizing any of these things. I'm just glossing over them. So, what you're seeing here is a pretty compact area with not much open space, if any. But in order for them to move forward so that they can go from conceptual to a definitive plan, we've got to put a stake in the ground and say, okay, look, you came with 88, now you've got 142. That's 142 is great. Or, you know what, we want you to do 88. Or, you know what, we want you to do something in between. So I guess I'd just like to hear people's comments on the number.
Mike, I feel that the number is satisfactory for what is right there, the 142 units. I do believe if you were up at the heights and stood there and looked around at 360 degrees, you could visually see it. And I don't think it would look as compact as it would looks like on this piece of paper.
Okay, so I guess Dick's in favor. Is that a fair statement of 142?
Correct.
And Mike, I am too, because I don't believe, based on being up there with some of the, call it land formations, I don't think they're going to get 142. So to Peter's point, he wanted to come in with a concept plan of, and I hate using this word, but worst case scenario, and or the maximum
I think he said best case scenario, Tim.
Yeah.
For him, right.
Well, from the density standpoint, I guess I'll go with worst case, but I'm okay with the 142 because I don't believe this whole backside up here, which equates to about 10 to 12 to 14 of those, is going to go through. I think they're going to get stuck on property. So
By backside, are you talking to the west or south?
wish I.
Well, the top or the left side.
How about up against Christoph's property? That part.
Yeah.
So that's the west.
Yep.
Well, so I'll tell you what my concerns are, aside from the density issue, which I did understand where he said we might not be able to build on all of it. But then what are they going to put there? Like, it just seems kind of what if, and leaving it open to just what if there are parts we can't build on where he's got this footprint. But we had talked about like gardens. He did add the center. So for people who weren't at the meeting last night, at the bottom of the picture, there's a parking lot, like a double parking lot. And to the left of that is a 2,600 square foot community building. So there is a community building there, like that they've kind of incorporated, which we had talked about in our last meeting. But then Peter did talk about other amenities as they try to start selling them. What are people looking for? That could change the layout too, right? So if people are looking for different amenities and that's what they're going to need to sell them. My concern though is what would those amenities be? How would they know what people want? It doesn't look like a lot of open space there. And I think they're relying too much on the rest of the property as open space. We did talk about the buffer for the walking trail around the outside, but even with the buffer on the outside with the walking trail, that density right there is just, I don't know, it just seems like it'll be this wide open thing on the top of the hill.
Well,
Hey, Tim, could you just hold 1 second? Michelle, I mean, can I just ask a question of Tamika or someone who knows? Can I log into this Zoom meeting from the same email address on two different computers?
Yes.
Okay, all right, go on.
Just to let you know that David George said the 30-foot around the setback is incorrect, and it'll be 50 foot around the whole property. So that would cover a walking trail.
Yeah, 50 foot is the bylaw, in the bylaw.
And also, one thing I brought up to Dave, your community center, between lot 2 and phase 1 is a perfect place on phase 1 is very close to the flagpole. Way back, Norm Anderson said it would make a perfect area for a band to set up near the flagpole, and people could sit on the bank and or something like that. So there are good areas still left there for other functions.
That's Dick, that's what I was gonna say. All that space where it says water supply protection zone, that's all good land that there's no houses on it. I'm not saying it's completely open. It's part of the open space bylaw, but that's a lot of land at the front that if you go to some of our subdivisions that aren't open space, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I think they've got a decent size amount of open space, especially next to the community center. I mean, they could have gardens and amenities there, tents, whatever else that they've left open for the residents. So that's my take.
If just up on that, let me get down below phase 1, heading to the left at that little point right there. That's where the Rutland Heights had their garden, is in that area. And when I used to brush hog down there and I pushed out a few trees, I could not believe how beautiful the soil was right in there. So that'd make a perfect garden.
Dick, can you explain where you're talking about again?
You see where it says phase 1 on the map, residential?
Yes. Yeah.
Keep going to the left. Yeah, and just right around that area is where the garden was. Where that cursor is right now is the road, and a little bit more to the left is where the garden was, right in there. Yep.
But that would be on our property. That's not their property.
But part of it is, as a matter of fact, where that line is right now, the blue line, that takes in a fair sized chunk of the garden. And also it takes in the wishing well too.
Okay.
But it's just one of those things that is still there that could be utilized for them.
And you bring up a good point too. So where that driveway is, the lot line will most likely be changing, right? Because we're going to be trying to keep the roadway there.
Correct.
And so that lot line would possibly be changing. So it would only go up to the roadway, because we had a long discussion about that last night as well.
That's correct.
So, I have a question, Jim. Jim, I'm going to put you on a spot for a second, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
no problem.
What is the distance between your units on Main Street?
Well, last night I heard 10, 12, they are 15. Then there's nothing less than 15. There cannot be anything less than 15.
Okay.
The ones on the cul-de-sac will be more.
Okay. So
And I think they said they had 20.
that's right. I was just trying to get a perspective of, how it would compare to yours.
Yeah.
But Jim, you had the fire marshal come out and say the way you're building it's acceptable, because isn't the code 20 or 30 feet?
We hired a fire engineer.
Yeah.
To research the law and stuff. So they came up with 15 feet is acceptable.
Okay.
Other comments?
Yes, I have another a comment and a question, I guess. So one of the things that came up last night was about not having 2 egresses, but they did put the double barrel driveway entrance that has been done in town before. So I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah.
And that was my comment. My question is, so if they build more than the 88 units up to like the 142, are we asking for more money for it
Well,
based on the number of units that they're going to build?
Can we just do one thing? I'd like to just focus on a number right now, because that's the responsibility of the HPDD Review Board. And if we don't give them a number that is acceptable, they're not going to be able to proceed. Now, I'm happy to have that discussion, tonight, after we get by the numbers. So I'd like to just, if we can, let's agree to a number. I'll give you my opinion. The more they build, the better it is for the town from a tax standpoint. This to me looks way too tight. It doesn't look to me like there's any open area. For instance, as you drive down the streets, there's no yard, there's no green, there's no, other than the roadway. It's pretty well postage stamp buildings. In a perfect world, I'd kind of like to see right at the peak of the hill, I don't know what, a 100-foot circle that is left untouched or unbuilt upon, that maybe they put a bandstand on, maybe they put the community center there, maybe they move the flagpole up there. What I wonder about, and this is more a concern, I guess, or should be a concern of theirs, and I'm sure they're considering it, is, are people going to be interested in living in a place that, you basically got a tiny little piece of backyard, and maybe they will. That's why they want to move into these places. But it just looks tight to me. That rural character is the reason people, want most preserved in Rutland. Is this consistent with that? I don't know. Now, in all honesty, on the other hand, as you drive down Maple Avenue, and if this is built up there, sure, you're going to see some buildings, you're going to see some rooftops, but it's not going to look, when it might when you drive through it. So I guess that's kind of my gut. Just it feels awful tight to me.
Through the chair, I would say offhand, we'll wait till he gets up there with an excavator and start digging. You might see more than a couple 100 feet of areas up there that's not buildable. I don't know. It's just one of those things. I got funny feelings he's going to have to eliminate a few of these.
Yeah, and Mike, to your point that you brought up yesterday, this is a conceptual. Once we can get them past this conceptual phase, and maybe Doug brought it up too, is that then they can get into the actual engineering, the meat of it, and that's when the layout actually happens. Their actual engineering might come back and say, we can't do the south and west side. It's physically impossible, which would eliminate 20 units gone. I want to get them past this conceptual point and get them into the engineering phase to find out what we can do.
Oh, I agree 200%. The one thing I don't want to do, though, is unfairly send them down a path saying, okay, we're in agreement that you can build as many as 142 units. And then they come in with their definitive plan and we go, oh, gee, we don't really like the looks of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
just
do.
want to make sure that
And that was my concern, because we don't know how many spaces are not buildable, but I think we do need a maximum number.
Right.
So Mike,
Yes.
I think that people that are going to be buying these homes, they're 55 and over,
Yep.
they don't need a lot of space.
Yep.
They
No, I
don't
agree.
want a lot of space.
I agree.
And actually in
They
the
don't even
two
go
on the
outside.
left,
I
there's
agree
quite a
with
bit
you.
of space between the houses.
No, I agree with you, Bonnie.
Mr. Chairman,
Go right ahead, Ron.
just a comment here, and I don't want to move into the conversation. You want to wait till later. But, we are going to have to relook at negotiating with them with the more units to Michelle's question, to look at amount. And usually I would think those negotiations would be on the basis of a per unit kind of price. So to some degree, we have to have a good idea as to how many units so we can negotiate a fair price for what we're doing. So I think that that number is important that we do it. And they, I mean, maybe they take a chance and negotiate a higher number of units and then they can't build them, but that's the price for land anyway. But I think it's a significant question that we're going to need to answer as soon as possible.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it has to be answered tonight.
Yeah, that's,
And I see no reason why it can't be. I mean, we are the group to decide it. Nothing is going to change between now and 2
well,
weeks from now.
what's questionable there, Mike, is whatever the number, I think you said 140 units. If they negotiate a price of 140 units and then they find out it's unbuildable portions of it and they can only build 100 units or 115 units, they're still going to be paying the price at 140 once we negotiate that agreement.
Well,
That's the question I'm wondering about.
yep. I mean, I think there's ways to handle that, but
Yeah, we can.
Per unit.
we'll have to look at it.
yeah, we just do it per unit. We say, okay, any unit you build over 88 is whatever the cost of 188th is.
But I guess my question was, and maybe Jim would answer it to me, would we have a final detailed plan before we actually do the closing? Because the amount of the transaction is going to occur on the date of the closing. And I guess it's going to take them some time to figure out if some sites are unbuildable or not. I guess it's a timing issue to some degree.
Mike, I thought we couldn't get any money out of them until the detailed plan's finished.
So the plan is filed, correct?
Yeah, that's what I
So
thought.
there
So,
will, the answer to your question is, Ron, there will be a definitive plan.
Okay, before the closing. Okay.
Correct.
Well, that will answer the question as to the price per unit. So thank you.
Okay, so does anybody have any other comments? Jim, you got any comments on the quantity?
I don't have a problem with the 142. I think once it's all set up and done and landscaped and everything, it'll fit right in fine. It's kind of off the beaten path up there. These people don't, as far as like going outside, these people, all they do is go for walks. They don't really go outside too often. That's why they moved to a condo, so they don't have
Right.
to do anything.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, so I don't have a problem with the density.
Anybody else on density? All right, I guess we should entertain a motion.
8 times.
Make a motion that the maximum is 142.
second,
Any further discussion?
I'll second.
Sorry? So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, roll call.
Narwhal,
Williams,
aye. Sorry, Dick. Narwhal, aye.
Lucy, aye.
Dan Reed, no.
Bonnie? Bonnie?
He disappeared.
Yeah, oh, Bonnie.
I think she's frozen. I think the video froze. Oh, there she is.
Bonnie?
There she is.
Yeah.
Bonnie, raise your hand if it's aye. Do thumbs down if it's nay. Oh, she's still frozen.
Bonnie, if you can hear me, some of the problems with the bandwidth is if you turn off your video, your sound will be okay.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's just hold that vote until Bonnie can get back and we'll continue on to some of the other issues that we need to discuss. As Michelle alluded to earlier, they have proposed, if you look at the entrance off of Rutland Heights Way, a double barrel roadway, which gives them kind of a, you know, a second entrance, if you will, even though it's, you know, it's one, but it's divided so that if, for instance, you know, whatever, something catastrophic happened going into the project, you could still get out on the other side of it. That's something that the planning board is found acceptable for many, many years, and I can think of 3 or 4 significant subdivisions that are built that way. So that I have no doubt would be acceptable to anybody else. Anybody have any thoughts or comments on that?
Mike, the other thing I wanted to point out that I don't know if I did last night or not, is that the other issue with this road is this is all going to be private. The town's not going to own any of these roads. So it's going to be up to the homeowners association to take care of this. So that takes a lot of burden off Chief Buckley. And, you know, it's internal to this community. The town's not going to own the road. So that was one thing I thought about after I got off last night. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I think the issues that have been raised in the past is more safety than anything else. That's why the double barrel roads have been built.
Oh, yeah, yeah. To get the fire truck, basically get a fire truck in and out at the same time.
Right.
I do believe, I think David and I know that Joe, we talked a little bit about it this morning or noontime. We're going to extend that double barrel in a little bit further. And also the other road will be utilized for emergency exit.
So, Mike, through chair, Dick and I were talking a little bit earlier. If they're going to actually pave that road around I guess it'd be is it the southern side of the property?
Yep.
I was thinking for the second egress, and again, I know this is a financial decision, but you could easily take one of those houses off and make a T into that road, and there's your
Right.
second egress.
Correct. Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that.
Okay, that was going to be.
Everybody's okay with the double barrel road, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's now move on to the second means of egress. Obviously, in a perfect world, if there was, let's just call this road entryway at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock on this map, it would be nice to have an exit or another entrance, whatever you want to call it, over at whatever 10 or 11 o'clock. And the obvious way that can happen is to use the previous road that was there. So there was a bunch of discussion about that last night, and their engineer raised a concern of being able to work on that road, being able to do anything on that road because it's in the water buffer. So there was some additional discussion about that, and Dick and Doug and Dave, I guess, are going off to talk to Joe Buckley about it. Excuse me. I'll tell you what I've done. I'm sure, I know Dick, certainly Jim will know the name Jeff Lacey.
Yeah.
Just for those who don't, Jeff Lacey was a DCR employee for a whole bunch of years, and was one of the, Jim, what would you call them? Enforcement officers? I don't know what you call them. Field officer?
Field engineer type
Yeah,
thing. He
so
was kind of in charge.
Right. So he was one of and Rutland was his territory. And he was one of the guys that whenever there was a DCR question, he'd come out, or any watershed protection, he would come out and he would be the eyes and ears for DCR, and basically, tried to make things, work within the Wetland Protection Act and, within the town's regulations. So he's now retired. He retired a couple of years ago, but I called him this morning. I know him well enough that I called him and I explained the situation to him. And interestingly enough, he now is consulting, representing individuals and towns. In fact, he was telling me he's doing a lot of work for the town of Barry. And when I asked his opinion of this, would DCR allow us to continue to use that road that in my mind is still there? The only reason there isn't pavement on it is because when Rutland Heights Way was going to be built by the state, they basically come in with a, Jim, help me, is it a planer?
Grinder, they ground everything out.
Grinder, okay, they came in
Grinder.
with a grinder and they ground up the existing roadway and did all the things they did, put the water and sewer and, all, sidewalks, curbs, all that kind of stuff. So they came to us and said, hey, while we've got the grinder here, would you like us to grind the other parts of the road that are, the pavement's in tough shape and all that kind of stuff? If you're ever going to redo them, you're going to have to grind it anyway. So we said, yeah, please do it. So they did it. And my position is the town has not repaved it because we haven't had the money. And we haven't had the use either, but that's another issue. So I presented that to Jeff in that way. And he said, he calls me Sully. He says, Sully, I can't speak for the DCR, but the fact that those roadways were there, for way before the Wetlands Acts, he said, I think you've got a case to go to them and say, hey, these are still existing roadways. We want to, maybe they'd ask you to put some drainage in or something, but, we want to get them back to functional, and here's the reason why. And I asked him whether he would, what he told me we should do is file, Jim and Dick, this probably means something too, an application for determination. I asked him whether, as a consultant, would he be willing to do this work for us? And he said, yes, he would. I think we have reasonable hope. Certainly Jeff's not speaking from any position of authority, but just past experience. Reasonable hope that second roadway will become another road, become a road, a passable paved road again, and these folks can figure out how to get it into their subdivision, their senior housing up wherever it's most appropriate.
And to be fair, Mike, we could, their renegotiated agreement for pricing, we could even put that to give them some satisfaction. It's contingency. If we can't pull it off, then, they're not on the hook.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, but if we can't pull it off, what is here is buildable as it is.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. We want a second egress, but if for some reason the DCR puts up such a fight that we can't get it, then the existing plan is good enough.
Right.
Sounds fair.
So
As long as they move the line over to the other side, so the town has a way of getting into the dam and also the landfill.
yeah, I mean, maybe
Easement too.
yeah, an easement might be the best way to do that, so that the town doesn't have to maintain any of it.
Mike, not to interrupt, but Bonnie just came back if you guys wanted to take the vote.
Okay, great. All right, so just before we do that, so I guess the question I'll ask is, I believe Jeff is an excellent resource. He knows the people at DCR, he knows the rules and regulations, and he's willing to work for us. Harbor Homes, in my mind, will be paying this anyway because they're, this is a consultant service. So I would like to suggest that we ask Jeff Lacy to file this, whatever I called it.
Notice of determination.
I'm sorry?
Notice.
Termination, the notice of termination.
Right. So I guess I'd like agreement that we should do that. And if that's, and by the way, the last question I asked him was, I said, okay, Jeff, pretty much, worst case scenario, how long would it take to get that signed off? And he got back to me and he said 60 days.
Oh,
So,
Mike, you want a motion to suggest
Yeah, sure.
the HPD to
yep.
hire Jeff Lacy as a consultant to, let me think of something, to file papers and file papers for determination for the roadway, of repavement of the roadway at Rutland Heights. I don't have a name for it, or I'd name it. So I guess the road to the dam.
Well, we could just call it the continuation of the whatever that elbow is that's there now.
All right, continuation of continuation and repaving of
Stub?
previous road of
Power plant road.
Power
Tamika,
Plant Road.
Tamika, you know what we're talking about, right? Tamika?
Yeah, could you call it the access road? I think they referred
Oh.
to that as that last night.
You're a genius.
Access road?
Access Road is it. That's perfect. Thanks.
Okay, everybody's comfortable with that? Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
Yep.
Any discussion further? All in favor?
Narwhal,
Williams,
aye.
aye.
Susie,
Anne Reed,
aye.
yes.
Everybody, aye.
Sully, aye. Sullivan, aye. Okay,
Bonnie, back?
Yes.
Cool.
okay, good. That takes care of that. And hopefully we can get that resolved expeditiously. So that takes care of that, okay, now back to density. Bonnie, before you went and had supper, I think. So we were, I don't remember exactly where we were. We were in a vote, I think, were we not?
Yeah, there was a motion, the motion made and seconded to approve the 142 maximum units.
All right, so why don't we start the vote over?
Bonnie, aye.
Narwhal, aye.
Williams, aye.
Susie, aye.
Van Reet, no.
Sullivan, aye. With reservations, to be honest with you, but. Okay, so that takes care of that.
Yeah.
Good show. Okay, so the other item on my list was access to other parts of the site vis-a-vis the landfill, the dam, and so on. I don't see why that's an issue because no matter what happens, whether DCR lets us do it or not, we have access now, so we're going to have access later. I don't see that as an issue. I guess Michelle and Dick, you were on the committee. Do you?
The only thing I want is the barricades removed from the roads.
Yes. I agree, and I want that done soon because I don't want DCR to go up there and see the roads closed and say, wait a minute, these roads don't even exist anymore. You closed them.
Yeah.
So Dick, I haven't been up there. Is that those Jersey barriers, those
Yes.
those concrete ones? Well, yeah, I would get Chief Buckley's people over there ASAP to get those out of there.
Yeah, I'm going to call him tomorrow and ask him to at least spin them out of the way.
And like, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had initially done that because
The kids.
there were people driving around
Yes.
and kind of off-roading up there.
Yeah.
So I don't have, I think I'm in full agreement that we do need to get rid of them. But should we also be asking the police chief to maybe better monitor that area in the evening or overnight?
Sure. Yep.
I think I might have a solution. They can remove the barriers, but you could ask Chief Monaco to put one of those, the wooden triangle things there, telling them that it's, I use the word under construction, but can't be used at this point. It's not blocked off. It's just basically temporarily closed.
Oh, like road closed due to weather or?
Yeah, something like that. So that basically you're not letting a car get past there to get back there to cause the problem, Michelle. I agree with you, but it's not, you put a Jersey barrier up there, it's permanently closed.
Right.
So I don't know. I was just trying to think of some way to it's a win-win for us. We try to keep people out from going back there and, out of the way where you can't see them, but yet it's not permanently closed. So it's a thought.
Okay,
Yeah, but
I'll talk to DPW about moving the barriers and I'll talk to the chief and ask him his recommendation on how to deal with that.
Or Mike, Chief Buckley could be able to help too from a road standpoint too. He might be able to kill two birds with one stone.
Right. Okay.
Actually,
All right, thank
Mike,
you.
I just had another thought. What if we were to put signs up at both entrances that it's closed from like dusk till dawn?
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'll ask the police chief. I'm
Okay.
sure he'll have a recommendation.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a quick comment. I've got a finance committee in like 6 minutes or 8 minutes. If you want to do any negotiations, would you mind discussing that question now so I can?
Okay, well, it's apparent that whatever is going on here is there has to be renegotiations. The negotiating team has discussed that, and I'll just remind you, that's Ron, Dave, myself, and Sharon, the town's attorney. Dave set up a meeting for Monday at 10 o'clock, and I don't even know whether he knows it or not. I originally told him I could, but I've then since told him I can't, so I asked him to change it to Tuesday. So next week, we're going to be negotiating, and we'll see where that all goes.
Obviously, before we lock anything down, we'll come back to the committee so the committee can re-vote on whatever the agreement is. So we're a negotiating team, but we'll bring back whatever we do. And we won't bring anything bad because we just won't.
You do the quick math of the 88 units, times like 15,000 a unit comes to almost to what we're going to sell it for. So is 15,000 per additional unit? Is that an acceptable number? Is that what you guys are thinking?
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, Jim, you can answer this better than anybody. Rather than building in two separate locations.
Well, it's going to be definitely cheaper to do it all in one.
Exactly.
It's a nicer spot. Let me ask one other question. Is they still keep talking about that first parcel by Mojo's? Is that still something they want, or is that off the table now?
They still do want it, but we're going to do this in. We decided not to call it phases, but two separate parcels.
Yeah.
So,
And it would
Ron, I
be
think that's
commercial,
pretty
and
much the
They did
extent
say
of.
commercial on the front lot, on the other lot.
So, Ron, I don't have anything else to say about negotiations unless you do.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to see if anybody had any comments. But I think Jim is right. We're going to try to stay sort of in the same negotiating posture as we did with the
fair.
last project, Jim. So I'm hoping that we're consistent. And I can't think of any reason why we wouldn't be, but we haven't had those conversations yet. I've got to know that they don't think they can build additional units and not give us more money. So they understand we're going to come back. It's just a question of, I don't know if there's any issues of, I think we will have to probably put something in it. Well, maybe not. If we do the detailed plan, maybe we'll have time to renegotiate at the end and change some things. You might be right. It's a per unit price depending upon what's on the detailed plan is probably the way it would go, right?
And this is my opinion for the negotiations. I would have the lump sum 88 that you agreed with, and then just have something at added, like Jim said, 15,000 after the 88. So at least we got something locked in at what our minimum that we're gonna get.
Well, I think, Tim, the 15,000 was per unit for the 88. So that 15,000 number in theory would stay consistent no matter how many numbers we have. So if we book 142 is what we think, and then the detailed plan comes out, it's only 120, it's 120 times the 15.
Okay.
And that's the way it'll calculate out. That's at least what I think we're thinking right now, but we'll
that's
know better once we have those discussions,
Okay.
Okay, guys, thank you, everybody. I'm gonna head off to talk about the budget, which is so much fun.
Yeah, get us our $2,000 for Tamika.
Yeah. You guys-
Ron, I'll be over as soon as this is done.
All right, Tamika, we're gonna wrap up here quickly.
That question for me, Michelle?
No, no, you're all set, Ron.
Hey, thank you. Bye-bye.
But I want to go back to Jim's question about that lot one again.
Yep.
Because there was more information that I think, especially if Bonnie and they weren't listening to last night's meeting. So they did want to kind of put the placeholder there so that they could develop it for retail or commercial. And they did think that fairly soon they'll come back to us with a proposal for that lot. But we did decide to do them as two separate projects.
Yeah, so when they come back and propose something for lot C or whatever, it'll be a new public hearing, it'll be a new conceptual plan, a new definitive plan, blah, blah, blah.
So Mike, when they come to the planning board, they're just basically coming with, I'll call it lot one or lot two in the back, and then that little section for the road, and that's it. For an A&R.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, last thing I had was, and we've already kind of talked about it, Dick and Doug and I forgot who else. I think Chris, we're going to talk to Joe about water and sewer allocations. So I don't know whether you've had a chance to do any of that yet, but
Joe was asked, and he's looking into it. He did not know.
okay.
So I'll be waiting for an email from him, hopefully.
Okay.
Which is another good point. Like, I don't know how we could vote on the numbers if we don't even know that it's feasible for the water usage. Because
Well,
that
if
could
we-
shut off stuff going on down at on Maple Ave.
No, but if, Michelle, if we agree to the maximum number they can build, but if ultimately they come back and, for instance, there's not enough water capacity or sewer capacity, then they're not going to be able to build it.
They can't get
my,
the permits.
My concern is they're the first project up there. So technically, could they use all of the water capacity? Right now, I think last night the numbers came out to like 2/3 roughly, right?
Right.
That they were going to
Well, no.
use 2/3 of the water
He said 21,000 and we
out
don't
of
know.
36 or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's
And-
about 2/3.
Right.
I'm
and
roughing it,
there's
right?
There's still enough room in there for commercial retail to be added in the future. And Mr. Buckley thought at the moment that was fine. And
Okay.
not
Well, I
only
know-
that,
That number was just in there because
I'll drop it right there because he's in negotiation with DCR right at the moment.
wasn't that number just in there because there was a sewer and water moratorium? And once
No,
that
this was from before the moratorium, Jim. We set this aside because we kind of saw that with the building going on, that we said we at least wanted capacity up there in case we did develop something later on. Like when we did
Okay.
finally have something to develop, we wanted to make sure that the town had water and sewer capacity. So with the moratorium, our capacity is still in there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Michelle, just to your point, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember Kent Oldfield, their engineer, said that, I forgot what he said, a 260 seat restaurant wouldn't use.
Yeah.
the-
Yes, he said it would be enough for a 265 seat restaurant. So
Right.
to put it in perspective,
Right.
but that's what he said. But I just want to make sure that from like Joe or from our perspective, that
Oh, yeah.
that's a
Absolutely.
realistic number.
Agreed. Yeah, we don't want to just take their word for it, for sure.
No, Joe Buckley was happy.
Are you
Okay.
happy with that, Dick?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I had. Anybody else have anything, so we can, oh no, Tamika's still, well, it's so that Tamika can go do her other business?
The only other thing you had on there was something about tree cutting.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I agreed at our last meeting to leave that on the agenda, so we discussed it. But as I think I told you the other day, Dick, we don't have enough money right now to cover the original quote we got, so we can't do anything with tree cutting right now.
Well, put
What?
the thinking cap on.
Yep.
What if we try to get a hold of, I know Kurt Leslie's around and I was trying to get a hold of him the other day. Is it possible to get some money out of where they're gonna be putting this facility?
Yes, I agree. But Dick, from the standpoint of season, is now the time to be going in there with that big machine?
I would say offhand by the 1st of May, call it quits.
Okay. Well, I don't know that we're going to have a definitive lot line from Harbor Homes by then, because Dick and I have had this conversation about any potential revenue that can be generated by when the trees are cut. The town should step up and do that like we did before, not Harbor Homes. You with me?
Correct. The Harbor Homes would take the benefits from the tree sales versus the town of Rutland.
So is that something that you would have to negotiate with them?
Yeah.
Be put in the contract.
Yep. So, okay, Dick, I guess, to your point, why don't you talk to Kurt Leslie, have him, give a look at what's there. I mean, we have a general idea where their lot line is going to be.
Yeah.
He may say, yeah, there might be a few $1,000s or $5,000 worth. And if there is, maybe we can do it.
Okay, I'll give him another ring, or I'll drive up there and see him.
Okay. Anybody, anything else?
The
Nope.
last thing on that, Mike, is would we need quotes from 3 different people?
How did we do this last time? I don't know that, but
We had quotes from 3 different people and we
Okay.
ended up awarding it to Kurt.
yeah, okay. So let's figure out whether it's even worth pursuing before we do that. All right. All right, I just have one housekeeping issue I'd like to raise. When I schedule a meeting, I'd appreciate if you guys could just get back to me and say, hey, Tim, I think you did. But just send me a response saying, good for me or something, just so I know that we have a quorum. So I don't have to call everybody and remind and make sure and all of that. All right,
Got it.
You got it.
okay. I see.
Do we
Leah-
want to set our next meeting for after the next,
Yeah, wait a
Urban
minute.
Homes
I want to
meeting?
put Leah on the spot first. I see she's here. Come on, Leah, at least say hello and wish us happy Easter.
Easter. How
Hi, guys.
about,
Can you hear me?
April
Yeah, we can hear you
Fool's?
fine.
Just wanted to say hi. I missed the HPD meeting last night, so I was doing dance stuff. So I wanted to see what the outcome of it was. So I appreciate you guys letting me listen in.
Okay, well, you're always welcome and we appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
You too, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So what was the question someone asked?
Do we
April
want to set our
Fool's.
next meeting for after
yeah.
after the next HPDD meeting?
Yeah, I would like to set it the day after the next HPD, which I don't even know whether we'll be able to because of, this is Zoom, all of these Zoom meetings, we only have 2 Zoom seats apparently. So they can only be 2 meetings a night. And I know there was discussion last night about the HPDD meeting. And I thought they said that you couldn't do it on Thursday because whatever. Okay.
Mike, if we
it's
set
just
it
because
early
of
enough,
FinCom.
yeah, if we set it early enough at this 5 o'clock and the FinCom's at 6,
Okay.
we set it at 4:30 and get an hour and a half in, that's a possibility.
Sure. All right. Tamika, when is the next HPD meeting?
April 21st.
So let's set it for April 22nd. Can everybody do it a little earlier, 4:30?
I can do 4:30.
Michelle?
Yeah,
I can do it.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of what might come up that would cause a lot of discussion. If I can tell we're straining people to get there at 4:30. Okay,
I'm okay.
okay,
Yeah,
4:30.
4:30's fine.
And Tamika, you think there's availability then?
Yeah, we can do
Okay.
that. What I'll do is I'll just go in and reserve it now.
I was just
so
gonna
that-
say, grab it for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, I will. I'll get first dibs.
Okay, terrific.
You could tell that chairman of the FICOM that she's moving her meeting to 6:30, and if she's got a problem, talk to me.
Oh, boy, Tim, you're a brave man. I don't know
I
about
was just
that.
gonna say, Tim, you're not only brave, you're stupid.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking
Okay.
to get thrown out of the house for the weekend.
Anything else? Anybody on any other comments? Okay.
No, Mike, the only comment I got is I think this is going to help Chris out a lot because he
Oh,
was
absolutely.
struggling last night to try to come up with where to go.
Yeah, I mean, we unfortunately, the solar thing, the way it happened and the timing of it made everything very difficult, and it kind of backed the HPDD into a corner that they can't get out of until we open the door. And I
Yeah,
think we just did that.
Mike,
I
would
think
you
tonight
like
we
me
did
to
it.
send an email out to Chris and the HPDD, just to let them know what was discussed and
Sure.
decided
No,
tonight?
absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Mike, should we also schedule our meeting to coincide with the HPDD in case we have a quorum there? Or would we not vote on anything anyway?
Gonna come in as a citizen, Mike. I'm trying to avoid any,
Yeah, all right. You know what? Could you do that to, it could maybe. do
You
we
just
have-
want me to post it, just post it as a meeting for the RDIC?
Yep,
Okay,
okay.
And then at least we're covered if we do have a quorum.
Yeah, that's fine. Good idea, Michelle. So remind me at that meeting to call our meeting to order, somebody. Tamika, never mind. Forget the somebody, sorry. Miss Perfect will take care of me.
let me ask, Mike, what happens with Dick and Michelle on two boards at the same
I have
time?
no idea. I don't see us doing anything anyway, but I guess if they're in two different meetings and we decide to have a vote, they'd say, okay, I'm now voting as a member of the RDIC.
Yeah.
Please step into a separate room and vote.
Well, no, if it's not executive session, you don't have to.
No.
Okay, did I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Henry, aye.
Unanimous, Tamika.